Keons was Clancy's bishop, and Keons is the key to understanding how this story ends. Changed my mind. There's been a lot of talk recently about Clancy becoming a bishop, and I agree. The evidence is there, but it begs the question, why? Why is the climax of this story Clancy becoming a bishop? Isn't that a bad ending? Doesn't that mean the cycle is never broken? This was all for nothing? Nico wins? To the untrained eye, it may appear that it is so over. But I'm here to tell you that Clancy becoming a bishop can be a meaningful ending to this story. In fact, it could be the most meaningful ending. Why? Keons. He's what makes this ending so poetic. He loops the cycle back to the start in a very poignant way. Because Clancy isn't just becoming the new ninth bishop, he's taking the place of his former bishop, Keons. But I know what you're thinking. Isn't this guy Clancy's bishop? Nico? Of the Niners? Blurry face himself? Are you telling me the guy harassing the band on Twitter, leaking their music, who literally and metaphorically has Clancy in a chokehold, is somehow not Clancy's bishop? Yes. Yes, I am. And for the sake of discussion, in the spirit of fairness, could you let me cook? If you've never heard of Keons before, I don't blame you. To even learn Keons' name, you need to be the same level of insane that Nicolas Cage was when he stole the Declaration of Independence. There are ciphers involved here. This is not common knowledge. Let's start with some background. The primary source for the 21 Pilots lore is dimaorg.info. It's a secret website full of journal entries and images from our main character, Clancy. It fills in the gaps in the Trench story. It's basically world building for things that aren't addressed on the album. For example, in his very first journal entry, Clancy states that Keons is his bishop. So why do so many people think it's Nico? Well, Nico is the main antagonist. He's the only bishop we see Clancy interact with directly. He's mentioned in 5 songs. Keons is mentioned in 0. And Dima.org is a bit cryptic. Some would even say contradictory, especially the Trench era. Because of this, many dismiss the early Clancy journals as a separate narrative entirely. Some think it's the story of another Clancy, one who's long dead. Others view it as the stories of multiple banditos all writing under the pseudonym of Clancy. Either way, many have come to the conclusion that the Clancy Tyler portrays is not the Clancy who said his bishop was Keons. I have a different interpretation. I believe Dima.org is Clancy's story, this Clancy specifically, which means I'm taking Clancy at his word that Keons was his bishop. But if I'm going to die on this hill, I have to make it make sense. I need to explain how the puzzle pieces fit together into one cohesive narrative, no plot holes, and that narrative can't contradict anything in the music videos. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build this timeline from scratch, assuming Dima.org is a first-hand account of Clancy's experiences. This is purely my interpretation of the story. This is just one way to read between the lines. But I'm willing to die on this hill because I really do think it's worth looking at the story from this angle. Keons being Clancy's bishop serves the themes of this story perfectly. It explains why Clancy's becoming what he sought to destroy, and it creates a gorgeous metaphor for the relationship we as fans have with 21 Pilots music. So, welcome to the unified Keons theory. If you type dimaorg.info into your search bar, what you'll find isn't a journal at all. It's this ominous page. The violation code is the missing piece of the full URL. That'll take you to Clancy's journals. But besides being part of the ARG, I think this page is here for another reason. Because there are 2 types of Dima citizen who may stumble across this webpage. The first is someone who has no idea what this is or what these numbers mean, and they are not the audience Clancy's trying to reach. He still leaves them some breadcrumbs. East is up is sprinkled through the message. They can go look into that if they want and come back when they recognize that violation code. The second type of citizen who may find this knows exactly what that code means because they've been branded with it. It means failed perimeter escape. I think Clancy created Dima.org because he's looking for those who are starting to question things like him and starting to make attempts to see what's beyond the wall. That's who he's addressing here. So to these like-minded escapees, he says, keep quiet, keep each other safe. I'm marked by the same string of numbers you are. You know what to do with it. Here's my story. In Clancy's first journal, he's reflecting on what started him on this journey. He used to consider Dima his home, but now he's questioning what's beyond the walls. Here's why I believe this journal is written by the Clancy Tyler portrays. The first line reads, "The perplexities of the Dima horizon didn't occur to me until my 9th year." 21 Pilots was formed in 2009, making their 9th year 2018, the year Trench came out. Now that alone connects this story to R. Clancy. On top of that, this is where the spoken verse at the start of Redecorate is taken from. In Redecorate, the narrator is speaking in third person, but the lyric video reveals that very early on in the writing process, he made the decision to switch from first person to third person perspective. So the first verse at least is his personal story, paired with the journal entry echoed in the background of the song, and I take it as a hint that the journal and the song have the same author, which means the Clancy we meet in this journal is the same Clancy we see in Jumpsuit and the same Clancy who wrote Skilled and Icy. This is his history, and part of his history is Keons. The way Clancy talks about his bishop is fascinating. Keons doesn't strike dread into him, he inspires awe. Clancy admires him as someone unwavering and forthright, dedicated to his citizens, a leader he's proud to serve. Clancy establishes right here at the beginning of the cycle that at least one bishop isn't ruthless. One of them is kind. The next post is a scan of an FPE badge. Now, usually an FPE badge means a citizen has been outside the city walls, but Clancy hasn't been outside yet. He talks about his first escape in later journals. So, how does Clancy have this? Someone else must have posted this, right? Perhaps. But I do want to point out, it does say failed perimeter escape. As in, he tried and did not succeed. Clancy's gotten better at escaping with every attempt, right? Which means he wasn't very good at first. His first attempt may have been so bad that he got busted before he ever saw a single blade of trench grass. But he tried it, so the bishops labeled him an FPE. He got a badge. And I'm proud of Clancy. We all start somewhere. The next post is an image of vultures titled Death Eaters. In Trench, vultures are associated with death and the bishop's control, so that's why it's here. But think about what it took for Clancy to get this picture. If this is the wall surrounding Dima, to get this shot, he must have been standing in the necropolis area, which is well past the limit of where citizens are supposed to be. I can't imagine the bishops would be cool with folks wandering around there. In the FPE letter about the neon gravestone rituals, Pierre said, "They don't want anyone to know what we do down here," which means they probably don't want people to know what goes on in the necropolis either. All that's to say, it was a pretty ballsy move for Clancy to get this photo. He's improving. He's building his resume as an escapee. He may not have made it out yet, but it took some first-class lurking to get this shot. The next post is an image of a child titled Self. The uncropped version of this image shows mathematician Andre Weil of the infamous Bourbaki group. The identity of the child is unknown. It might be his sister, Simone Weil. I'm not getting into all the Bourbaki group Simone Weil theories in this video. I'm leaving that for smarter people. On a meta level, I think this is Tyler hinting at where he's drawing his inspiration from. On a narrative level, I think this is Clancy sharing a photo of himself as a child, which again may have been very difficult for him to find. We know from the FPE letters that the bishops are lying to their citizens, particularly about their past and the history of the city. Having photo albums of childhood memories lying around doesn't really serve their agenda. Who knows what Clancy went through to get this photo, but I'd say it's impressive he found it. He's doing some solid detective work out here. Next up, the map of Dima. Now, the first version Clancy posted had a compass in the top left, allegedly oriented north, but the map was later re-uploaded with the compass torn off. The caption below the map reads, "Get out, the compass lies, they don't control you," 4 times. And East is Up is spelled out in randomly capitalized letters. So somehow, Clancy got his hands on a map and cracked the code on what East is Up means. The compass is oriented the wrong way. That's the lie. That's how they make sure anyone who escapes doesn't make it very far into Trench. He's uncovered one of the biggest lies the bishops tell their citizens, which means he's one step closer to getting out. Next, Clancy gives us 3 yellow lines. Don't worry about it. It's a special tool that'll help us later. In the next journal, it's clear that something has shifted in Clancy's mindset. He's no longer just daydreaming about Trench. He's putting a name to what he's looking for. Home. He realizes he's never experienced home before, and he wants to know what it feels like. Just defining that hope is enough to make him feel like a new version of himself. This lit a fire in him. There's another code in this entry. A particularly astute citizen of Dima might notice there are some letters missing. And if you pull out those letters in order, it spells, "You are still sleeping." Why leave that message for the reader to find? I think it's because this is a pivot point for Clancy. Up until this moment, he felt that he was sleeping. He was discovering this hope, this yearning to find home that woke him up. I think Clancy's message to the reader is, you're close, but information isn't enough. You need to find what lights the fire in you. When you wake up, take that map and follow me out. So Clancy got his hands on a clip of a cheetah and realized two things. One, he will be writing a banger song about this later. And two, this is an extremely clever opportunity to dox Nico. I think we've taken this plot point for granted. My name's Blurryface, I care what you think. Yeah, we've all heard it. What Clancy did here is huge. For whatever reason, Nico was hiding his real name. He wants to be known as Blurryface. Clancy somehow figured that out and decided to take away some of Nico's power by taking away his anonymity. Now, considering how treasonous this is, he's got to be subtle about it. What better medium to use than a GIF with like a billion frames? It's tedious to decode this. It takes time to go through frame by frame for each letter. This is probably the safest way Clancy could reveal the truth. But what Clancy did here was very bold and very dangerous, and it gives Nico every reason to go after him. This punk doxed him with a single cheetah GIF on his Rebel side blog. I'd be mad too. I bring this up because I feel like we look at Jumpsuit and draw the conclusion that, well, Nico's the one tracking Clancy down, therefore he must be Clancy's bishop. But there is an alternative explanation. Nico's tracking Clancy down because he's an enemy of the state. Ordinarily, Clancy would be Keons' responsibility, but Clancy is a big enough threat to Dima that Nico's handling him personally. The next image is Banditos on a cliff, titled, "Not My Only Friend." I don't think Clancy took this photo himself. He's not been outside the walls yet. I think he's digging around Dima's archives. Maybe he knows someone on the inside, like Friedrich, or maybe he's just real good at snooping. He's scouring Dima's records, looking for any trace of the Banditos, because he's looking for his friend. He's looking for Josh. It's implied that Josh got out first. That's how I interpret the line, "Hope you haven't left without me," from Doubt. And the handshake at their reunion, they obviously know each other from before. Clancy knows Josh escaped, and he's been looking for any evidence that the Banditos exist, that his best friend found the legends he was looking for, which is why this image would mean so much to him. My boy Clifford! Clancy probably took this clip himself. In Nico and the Niners, we see he's under constant surveillance. He would be in a position to get a close-up shot of a vulture. As for why he posted this is useful intel for whoever's reading his blog. Tip him off that the birds work for the bourgeoisie. That's good to know. The next journal is this serial killer-looking collage. The lines have been chopped up and staggered. And when you combine this with the yellow lines we got earlier, the yellow highlights "We are Banditos." Now, I would say Clancy considers himself a Bandito at this point. The photo he found is proof the legends are true, and he wants to be one of them. This journal is important because this is where we get our first mention of smearing. Here's how Clancy describes it. "The only significant light I've seen has been in the eyes of those smeared. Such a curious sight, to see bright eyes strangled by the darkness of bishop hands. As their penance fades, so dims their memory of something more." We don't know what smearing is. We know the mechanics of seizing, but we don't have a working definition for smearing, which is really weird considering how black paint on the neck is pretty much the band's whole brand. This journal tells us a few crucial things about smearing. First, smearing represents penance. This is meant to mark an escapee as guilty of transgression against the bishops, but it's more than a symbolic punishment. According to Clancy, smearing is a process. When someone is smeared, they still have some light left in their eyes, but as time goes on, it's like that light is being strangled, because their memories are being strangled. Let me cook here. We don't know what properties the black paint has, but they're significant enough that the bishops legislate exposure to it. And if seizing manipulates the nervous system, why wouldn't the same be true for smearing? Here's my theory. I think the paint has neurological effects. It warps a person's memory and emotions. When someone is smeared, as the paint sinks into their skin, it first dulls the emotions like a sedative, but the real purpose is to impair a person's memory of what they saw in Trench. Now that the contract is out, I think I have even more support for this theory. The intro implies that the whole music video is what's going on in Clancy's head while Nico has his hands around his neck. And it's absolute chaos. Memories are bleeding into each other, fading out of existence. There's fragments of things he remembers, but it's all warped and confusing. I think the contract is finally a look at what smearing does to a person. The paint messes with your head. This is how the bishops manipulate people. If this is true, it could also explain this lyric in Leave the City. It's only time before they show me why no one ever comes back with details from beyond. People only come back to the city dead or smeared, and good luck trying to remember what you saw out there with your bishop's hands around your neck. And thematically, this fits like a glove. Multiple mental health disorders affect memory. The metaphor is consistent with what the bishops represent. In summary, smearing is a tool the bishops use to warp their citizens' perception and memories. I made that up, but that's the definition I'm using going forward. The next two posts are both dated July 5th, 2018. The first is a grainy photo of the horizon titled Out. The second is a note detailing an escape plan. Now, both of these indicate significant progress. Clancy's very close to making it out. He snapped a picture outside the walls this time. This was either a short-lived escape attempt or him just scouting the area, but this picture is proof he has a way out. He has seen the horizon. The note reveals big money moves for Clancy. He's got an escape plan, and he's not alone. It seems he found the like-minded citizens he was searching for, and they are ready to match his freak to the death. Like, it's not the most bulletproof plan. They're kind of taking a group jaywalking, they can't hit all of us approach, which is, the plan ever. He and his posse studied the Watchers, whether that's referring to vultures or guards, and they came to the conclusion that the element of surprise isn't a viable option for them. Instead, they're all going to create a distraction and run for it Scooby-Doo style. They haven't exactly made contact with the Banditos yet. They think they need to go beneath the city, and they think torches are involved. Beyond that, they're kind of vibing it. But they're all in. Clancy says, "We're not sure of the breach location, but we're willing to risk being smeared in order to find it. If the contract does in fact show what it feels like to be smeared, to be fully under a bishop's control, there's a lot at stake here." The next post is made a day later, July 6th, 2018, the day of the escape plot. It's a gif of Bandito torches in a tunnel. It's titled, "They Can't See FCE 300, which is a hex shade of yellow. This yellow specifically. From the escape note, we know Clancy has pieced together that the Banditos carry torches, that's a signal he's looking for, and he knows the Banditos are likely to show up low in the tunnels beneath the city. I think this clip is his proof of that. In his exploration of Dima, he got video of the Banditos lurking in the tunnels and based his plan on that. Now, this is the last post Clancy made before his escape attempt. He's giving future escapees one last critical piece of information. Yellow is camouflage. Go low, look for these torches, and make sure you're wearing some kind of yellow. Now that we're getting into the actual escape attempt, let's talk about the cycle. Here's how Clancy describes the cycle he's trapped in.
"I am an escapee, getting better at it with every attempt, but they always find me."
Clancy escapes, he wanders Trench, he's captured. Over and over again. Which begs the question, how many times has this cycle happened? At least this many times. In Nico and the Niners, we see evidence of Clancy's prior escape attempts. Every time he escapes, he picks a yellow flower from Trench. There are at least half a dozen flowers stashed in his drawer here. By the time we arrive at Jumpsuit, this cycle has played out multiple times, which would make the Trench era of Dima Org a prologue to the Trench story. Yes, the plot of the journals we're about to read sounds exactly like the plot of Jumpsuit. That's by design. Jumpsuit has happened before. It's a cycle. Clancy's journals are one pass of the cycle. The music videos are another. And who knows how many were in between. So let's return to Dima Org and see how this cycle started. The next journal entry is dated July 8th, the third night after the escape. This one is handwritten, as it was written while Clancy's on the run. No mention of the other escapees. Seems Clancy was the only one who got out, or he got separated from the group. Nevertheless, he's having a blast. He finally feels weightless, his breathing feels different, he's savoring this taste of freedom. It's challenging. He still hasn't found the banditos, but he says, "I'd much rather endure reality than to be mindlessly obedient to a life that someone else created for me." And that is such a bar. It's giving message bearing. There's another post on Dima.org dated July 8th. It's an inverted black and white photo of Tyler from the beginning of the jumpsuit music video. It's implied that this is on the other side of the paper the journal's written on because the edges are torn in the same places. This is one of the most bizarre details on Dima.org. How could Clancy have gotten this photo? He couldn't have taken it himself, and if jumpsuit hasn't happened yet, how does this image even exist? I have an idea for where this photo came from. We'll get to that in a second. For now, I want to point out two things. First, as far as we know, there's no internet in Trench. The banditos are living off the grid. So the fact that we're reading a handwritten journal on Dima.org means it must have been scanned in and uploaded at a later date. Second, the photo isn't exactly the same size as the journal page. It's a smaller piece of paper that looks like it was pasted on the back of the journal page. Again, this could have been done at a later date than scanned in and uploaded, but we'll come back to this. Okay, this is where things get trippy. The next handwritten journal is dated July 18th, a few days into Clancy's trek through Trench. This journal reads like a third-person perspective of Jumpsuit. It's weird. This is how Clancy recalls it. Clancy believes he sees another person wandering Trench. He follows him. The banditos appear on top of the cliffs, as if to warn this guy of impending danger. The man is then confronted by a bishop on a white horse, presumably Nico, and he's paralyzed with fear as the bishop smears his neck. Watching this go down terrifies Clancy, so he runs as far as he can, at which point he pauses to write this journal, hoping it'll be proof that what he witnessed wasn't a dream. But the whole situation really rattles him, and he's starting to doubt whether leaving Dima was a good idea. I think what Clancy's remembering here actually happened to him, but his perception of the events is warped because Nico smeared him. The smearing affected his memory so profoundly that it caused a sort of dissociative episode, which is why he remembers this as an out-of-body experience. But the smearing also warped his emotions, because now he's plagued with doubts he didn't have before being smeared. This is consistent with how Clancy described smearing in his earlier journal, and the mental chaos we see in the contract. Nico's messing with his head. Now, Clancy escapes that encounter with Nico, but unfortunately, his time in Trench is limited. The next journal entry is typed again, meaning Clancy is back in Dima. It's dated January 22nd, 2019, months after his journey through Trench, and he's still trying to process what happened to him. He says, "The memory of that exchange has had time to fester and replay in my mind long enough that I'm questioning if I even remembered it correctly." In the aftermath of being smeared, Clancy's recollection of events in Trench are distorted, as are the emotions tied to those memories. He's even questioning if the bishop he saw wasn't being cruel. Maybe he was trying to help after all. He was not. What isn't distorted is his encounter with Keons. 5 days after Nico failed to capture him, Keons much more gently brought Clancy home. Clancy didn't run this time. He was actually relieved, because at this point, he'd been raw dogging it in the wilderness for like a week and could not have been doing well. Now, weeks later, Clancy's troubled. He feels like he's being pulled between Dima and Trench. He says, "There's still so much I do not understand." This is the last we hear from Clancy for a while, but I don't think this is the end of him trying to understand. He's still trying to connect the dots. So he pieces together what he has and uploads his Trench journals to Dima.org. Now, what about that photo? I have to assume it was Nico who took this photo. As for why he took it, this is speculation, but I wonder if this is standard practice when retrieving escapees. The bishops hunt them down, smear them, and while they're still under the influence of smearing, present them with evidence of their difficulties in Trench. They show them how close they came to succumbing to the elements and convince them that the freedom they remember isn't the truth. All that's out there is struggle, and it's in their best interest to stay in Dima. As the smearing settles in, and their memory gets more scrambled, they accept that staying in Dima is safer, and that's how the bishops regain control. My theory is this photo was presented to Clancy as part of this false narrative, but it doesn't work this time, because Clancy has his journals that tell the true story, warped as it is, and he has 5 days of memory in Trench not tainted by smearing, because Keons never smeared him, because Keons is a good egg. So the cycle repeats. Clancy tries to escape again. But I do wonder, this is the first documented cycle, but is it really the first time Clancy escaped? He seems to think it is, but during the out-of-body experience, Clancy observed something about this other man, aka himself. He said, to him, the terrain seemed familiar, as if he had been out here before. Maybe that's true. Maybe he did get out before. But the bishops effectively erased his memory. Maybe, despite the smearing, some part of him does know this path like the back of his hand. How many cycles did it take for Clancy to realize he needed to document his experiences because he can't trust his own mind? How many cycles before he started tracking his escapes with the flowers because he needs concrete evidence he got out, even if he can't remember? That's what I think Dima Org is. It's Clancy's attempt to tell his story not just to others, but to himself. He's recording every detail, every code, every inch of progress he can, so that he can retrace his own steps, should the bishops ever rob him of his memories or resolve. So that's my interpretation of the Trench era of Dima Org. It's Clancy's origin story. But the point I'm trying to make is that it is possible for Keons to be Clancy's bishop without breaking the rest of the story. You don't have to ignore part of the canon. You don't need multiple Clancys. It can all fit together. You just have to be slightly delusional. So why does it matter that Keons was Clancy's bishop? We're getting there, I promise. Let's pick up the cycle where Dima Org leaves off with Heavy Dirty Soul. We're going to do a little bit of plot summary here. So Clancy's grinding away at this cycle of escape, get captured, escape, get captured. Then he tries something new. He tricks Nico into taking him outside the city. He escapes by creating a fiery diversion. And I would pay money to hear Tyler's explanation of this. Literally, how did this little pyromaniac gremlin manage to explode Nico's car? Tyler, turn on your location. I just want to talk. Nico hikes back to Dima, gets his horse, tracks Clancy down again. The banditos try to intervene. Clancy slips on a rock, dies. Nico gets him. Josh is like, bruh. The second Clancy's back, he's on his way out again. This just cracks me up. Like, bestie, maybe you're stuck in the cycle because all you pack for the wilderness is a beanie and the ride sunglasses. Like, have you considered granola, perhaps? The banditos bust him out. Clancy's reunited with his best friend. Every time I see this look on Tyler's face, it ruins me for 3 to 5 business days. And Nico has snapped. Clancy is now formally inducted into the bandito camp. He's vibing. He's writing bar after bar. The banditos are spreading their message. Life is good, then bang, Nico snatches him. Now at this point, I imagine Nico calls Keons into his office and is like, listen, your kid is off the rails. You clearly can't keep him in line. Look what he did to my Cadillac. Give me one good reason I shouldn't unalive this punk. And Keons is like, okay, I hear you. Have you considered starting a variety show? I firmly believe in my heart and soul that Good Day Dima was Keons' idea. Because Keons is out of options. For months, years, he's been trying to help this poor kid. He took the time to teach Clancy personally. He's invested in Clancy's safety. He wants him alive and well. He may even be the reason Clancy had so many opportunities to escape. Not that Keons could help him directly without raising suspicion, but could he have turned a blind eye? Could he have left some doors unlocked? Left a map lying around? I bet it's not a coincidence that Clancy got as far as he did. Keons was in his corner the whole time. But he can't protect Clancy anymore. Nico has taken this out of his hands. He's dealing with Clancy himself. Keons is desperately trying to find some way to keep Clancy alive, so he makes a case for Clancy's utility as propaganda. And Nico agrees. That buys Keons some time. The propaganda machine is set in motion. Clancy's tasked with writing an album for the benefit of the citizens of Dima, and Keons oversees the process. Dima Org decompiles until all that's left is an account terminated message. The infraction number at the bottom is a cipher that reads, Clancy is dead. I don't take that to mean Clancy's literally dead. If we take a closer look, the message reads, disciplinary action has been taken, and the offender no longer has access to this account. Clancy has lost access to his writing, but also to his identity. Clancy is the identity Tyler took up as a bandito. It's not his actual name. But right now, Tyler's identity as Clancy is as good as dead. The bishops have stripped him of everything, even his name. They're basically saying, you rebel scum won't be hearing from Clancy anymore. You will, however, be hearing from Tyler Joseph, our golden boy who loves nothing more than pop music and vialism. By the time we arrive at Scale and Icy, all that's left of Clancy is Tyler, a colorful puppet wrapped around the bishop's fingers, singing their praises and entertaining the masses. Meanwhile, Keons is making moves in silence. He's plotting a mutiny against his fellow bishops, right under their noses. Not only is he going to set their weapon free, he's going to give Clancy the power to become a weapon himself. He's arming the banditos so they can overthrow Nico's reign of terror, and he's making Clancy the tip of the spear. Good Day Dima is a hit. Clancy nails it, as he always does. He's hanging on by a thread, but by God did he deliver. Thanks to Clancy's success, Keons now has an opportunity to maneuver things into position for the next phase of his plan. He gives the people the encore they want. Clancy will perform at the annual Assemblage of the Glorified. It's this big party on a sub attended by the elite citizens of Dima. Clancy is once again dragged out of prison and shoved on a stage. And dude, he just looks so tired here. This breaks my heart. So the celebration begins. Clancy is singing his smash hit Saturday,
which is a great song. If you don't think so, you're a buffoon.
Meanwhile, miles away in Dima, Keons enters the ritual chamber for the last time. He reaches out through the antlers with his terrible power, and he tips over the first domino in the chain that he hopes will overthrow Nico once and for all. So Keons telepathically controls a sea dragon named Trash. I sound insane. There's sea dragons now? There's sea dragons now. Every time I explain this to someone, that plot point humbles me. So Keons pilots the body of a sea dragon directly into the sub, killing dozens, and stranding Clancy somewhere in the middle of the Paladin Strait. The bishops immediately realize his betrayal, as he knew they would. He gets Julius Caesared. And by extension, so does Trash. Rip Trash. Keons doesn't live to see the rest of his plan unfold, but he knew his death wouldn't be in vain. Torchbearer, or a projection of him, is in position to intercept Clancy when he washes up on the island of Voldsoy. Keons has already relayed the plan to him. Torchbearer guides him to the Neds, who gifts Clancy the same power the bishops use to terrorize Dima, the power to seize. Clancy hesitantly accepts, but soon realizes he knows what to do. He reaches out with the antlers, only to find Keons, his bishop, his mentor, lifeless on the floor of the tower. That is absolutely brutal. That is so traumatic. Like, Clancy's still reeling from months of abuse and isolation and probably hypothermic shock, and then he finds out in the most visceral, devastating way possible that the one authority figure he looked up to who actually cared about him is dead, and that Keons died to save him, and that his dying wish was for Clancy to use his corpse to start a revolution. If Clancy crashes out on Breach, he is fully justified. Like, I would have become the Joker by this point. But this is why I say the story is so much better with Keons as Clancy's former bishop. It makes this moment a gut punch. Keons could not accept self-destruction as the ending to Clancy's story. He went against everything he once believed in, so Clancy wouldn't die at the hands of a system he helped create. He gave up his place in that system so Clancy could take it and do something better with it. Keons is the weak link in the chain. He's the crack in the bishop's armor. He's the break in their wall, the opportunity for escape. He doesn't end the cycle, but it's his compassion that gives Clancy a chance to break the cycle himself. That's the role Clancy's stepping into. He's becoming the next weak link in the chain. And like Keons, he will be different. Because that's the whole point of The Outside. It's an answer to the question Clancy asks at the end of every chorus. Am I on the outside? Am I part of this cycle? Or can I do this differently? Clancy is on the outside. He's not in the tower. It may look like he's conformed to their system, that he's wearing their colors, but little do they know, they can't touch him. He's outside of their control, the same way Keons was. Whatever sequence of events leads Clancy to becoming a bishop, there's one thing we know for certain. The 9th bishop will still be the kindest. Clancy will have to play his part in Dima, and to the banditos, it'll look like their leader has abandoned their cause. But Clancy hasn't forgotten the cries of his people. He hasn't forgotten the raw fear. He hasn't forgotten his friends, and he will never rule with an iron fist. He will always be the weak link in the bishop's chain. Years from now, another citizen of Dima may start to wonder what's beyond the walls, and they'll write their story, starting with their bishop, who is unwavering and forthright, someone they admire with a stoic demeanor, never ruthless. They'll describe how Clancy approached them as the sun rose in trench, offering words of comfort. They'll be driven to try and escape again and again by the things Clancy taught them. The cycle will repeat, but there will always be a way out, because Clancy will always leave a door unlocked. So no, Clancy becoming a bishop isn't a bad ending. This isn't a cautionary tale about falling to the dark side. It's the story of how Clancy becomes a beacon of hope. Of course, Clancy can't break the cycle, because Tyler can't break the cycle. His music can't defeat the metaphorical bishops. He can't completely destroy the negative thoughts that plague him or the rest of us as much as he wants to, but he can equip us to fight that battle, the same way Keons armed Clancy with the weapons he needed. And 21 Pilots music does that. It gives people a chance to feel heard, to keep fighting. Their music's one of the tools we can use in our struggle to stay alive and find purpose. And whether we break our cycle or not, we're better for fighting that battle. And like Clancy, Tyler has been and maybe still is inside the walls of the struggles he sings about. But it's from that position that he's able to reach out a hand to others and say, I hear you. You aren't alone. There is a way out. Let's go scream about it together. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so excited to see where Tyler and Josh take this story. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Stay alive, my dudes.